guys, welcome back to feature writing. Hope everybody's doing okay. I know this is kind of a crazy time. For this class, we're not really changing a whole lot. We're mostly just putting stuff online. So, for example, the discussions that we've been doing in class every week over the readings are now going to be done on the online discussion board. So we'll still be doing the same readings that we had originally scheduled. They're still in the syllabus, but we'll do the discussion online. And I've given you information or instructions on Folio about how to do those, kind of how I want them done. The points for that, just so you know, because we didn't originally have points for the discussion in the classroom, but since it's a big part of what we're going to be doing going forward, I thought we needed points for it. So I've taken away the reading quizzes. There's no more reading quizzes, so yay for that. You don't have to do a reading quiz, and I've also taken away a couple of in-class assignments that we just won't be able to do because we're not in class. So those points are going to go toward giving you credit for taking part in the discussion. And then obviously the other big thing that you're working on these next few weeks is your stories. So you're in progress on story 2. You still have a little bit of time on it, but we're going to start kind of thinking about story 3. And for story 3, I'm going to let you guys pick what type of story you want to do, what type of feature story you want. And today I'm doing a PowerPoint. Here in just a second, I'm going to start a PowerPoint that goes over 9 different types of features and basically gives you the options for what do you want to pick for your final feature. And I'll just tell you right now that a lot of you are going to be interested in the last option, so be sure and watch this PowerPoint through to the end because the last option may be the one that you are most interested in. We don't really have other lectures that we had left on the schedule, so really just stick with this one and get through this one and you'll be in good shape. Of course, that means we don't have a whole lot of time to communicate, or for me to communicate directly with you guys. So I'm counting on you letting me know if things get confusing or overwhelming or don't look right on Folio or whatever it is. Feel free to contact me and let me know. And we're all going to get through this together. Okay, types of feature stories. I want to start out just by going over kind of briefly the idea of showing and not telling. I'm going to go over the different types of feature stories, but just briefly, I want to go over showing and not telling. Showing is when you describe a scene. You give an example or you use dialogue. Basically, you show the reader what it is, the information that you want them to know. Telling is when you state it as though it's already known, basically. So we've got the example on the football players' walls are pictures of athletes. That shows the reader that the football player cared about sports versus just saying the football player was clearly into sports. So if we're talking emotion, showing would be Anthony clenched his jaw and took a deep breath. Telling would just be saying Anthony was stressed out. And you can see why showing would be better here. For just any information, Kristen got quiet. She didn't seem to have heard the question, but then she cleared her throat and said slowly, "I can't talk about it." Versus Kristen said she couldn't talk about it. So you can see the advantage of showing the reader what's happening rather than just telling what's happening. All right, let's go over the different types of stories. First off, you guys know this one, personality profile, an in-depth look at an individual, typically somebody who's interesting because of who they are or what they've done. We had the Roger Ebert example, the reading that you guys did about him and his life was one example of a personality profile. Here's a little screenshot of it. Now his hands do the talking. They're delicate, long-fingered, wrapped in skin as thin and translucent as silk. He wears his wedding ring on the middle finger of his left hand. He's lost so much weight since he and Chaz were married in 1992 that it won't stay where it belongs, especially now that his hands are so busy. There's almost always a pen in one and a spiral notebook or a pad of Post-it notes in the other. Unless he's at home, in which case his fingers are feverishly banging the keys of his MacBook Pro. So that personality profile. Business profile, you guys are also familiar with because you're working on them right now. Highlights a business in short or long form. It focuses on things like what's newsworthy, the goals, remember we talked about that, obstacles, achievements, logistics. A business profile could be something like that of Meet and Men story that we read. That was also kind of a personality profile, but it had a business component to it. Here's an example. This is not from that story, but this just happens to be one I just cropped out. It was from a business about somebody with a peanut butter business. And it says, back in 2011, Keely Tilton and Erica Welsh were college roommates at the University of Oregon who loved peanut butter. So they started making their own in their tiny apartment that mixed in new flavors like cinnamon raisin and chocolate coconut without the high sugar content typical of such snack foods. One thing led to another, and before beginning junior year of college, they ended up on Shark Tank and suddenly realized either they needed to drop out of college or let the business go. They dropped out. So good, I like the hook with that. That's good. Okay, another one that we haven't done is a travel feature. And these are often written in first person, past tense, and they focus on some place and the people in it. So basically with a travel feature, you want to have some sort of quest. You want to have a destination. So like your quest might be finding the best made Reuben sandwich in all of the Northeast, or your quest could be, scaling a mountain, particular mountain, or it could be learning about the culture of another place. It could be almost anything as long as you have a purpose. You need a purpose. And then you choose a small part of your big story to tell. So anytime you travel somewhere, especially out of the country or somewhere far away, you have a lot to talk about, but you can't do that in a travel story. You need to take some part of it and highlight that part rather than trying to start at the beginning and then get to the end. That's too much. Consider an anecdotal lead, so consider telling a short story before you tell your whole story. Include dialogue. And this is one of the reasons why people always ask me, can you write about travel after you've done the travel, if you weren't like planning it before? It's kind of hard because it's hard to include dialogue if you didn't know that you were going to need that information. There's really no way to do that. So this is really more of a, maybe you're planning a short trip and you could do a travel story on that. Of course, right now, probably not the time. So this one may not work out for you guys. But basically the other part I want to say about it is that you end with a change, meaning you find that sandwich or you come to the realization that this is a very different country, whatever it is. You basically have some kind of, event at the end, something that resolves. A couple of terms that I don't like in travel writing: best kept secret, hidden gem, must see, boast, as in the restaurant boasts 40 seats or something, etc., etc., just as a thing, just as a way of writing. And rustic is kind of a not so great way of saying it's not good these days. So just avoid those. This is a travel story, but it doesn't sound like a traditional travel story. So I'm going to read you guys the first paragraph. If we were doing this in class, I'd have you reading. So sorry if you're getting tired of hearing my voice. We'll get there eventually. All right. In front of the mosque, the rubbish heap steamed, and the children crawling over its stench shimmered like visions of angels. It was hard to distinguish anything in the waste other than the forms of the waste pickers. Anything with soft vegetable edges was oozing into a soup of discarded nappies and rotten food. Though off to one side, I could still see the shape of a dead puppy glistening like a burst fig. Anything with hard edges had already been removed for recycling or reselling. The children were shifting what was left, the trashiest of the trash. Plastic bottle tops were slipped into their bags like coins. A broken toy would be huddled under a t-shirt like treasure. So you can definitely see how descriptive that is, and that is an anecdote. That's a short anecdote at the beginning of the story. Okay, on to historical features. These are like the one that we read about the Emmett Till. Basically, you're shedding new light on an old story. That's what he was doing. He was trying to get new information. You may want to debunk wrong popular beliefs in your history story. So you may want to write about something that people, kind of have always misunderstood. You want to put a face on history. So for some of you guys, it might be the case that you're stranded in your house with family that's been through something historically significant, and you could write a historical feature on that and their experience with it. Some of you guys might consider that. You want to juxtapose the past with the present, so you want your readers to get the sense of kind of how it's different now or not. Historical features place problems of yesterday in present context. So basically, just tell us how it relates to today. This is from The Ghost of Emmett Till. It says, "We've known his story forever, it seems. Maybe it's because it's also a tale so stark and powerful that it has assumed an air of timelessness, something almost mythical. Emmett Till, a 14-year-old black kid born and raised in Chicago, went down in August 1955 to visit some relatives in the hamlet of Money, Mississippi. One day he walked into a country store there, Bryant's Grocery and Meat Market, and on a dare said something fresh to a white woman." an issue feature. This type of feature is basically, it's going to be factual and informational. It's going to be something that uses individual stories to create kind of the larger issue. So when I say individual stories, I mean like individual people. So people who have experience with an issue, like for example, this one was Black Lives Matter. If you have individual stories of people who have experienced it, that creates a larger issue story. Usually issue stories address some kind of societal problem, and the goal is to get people to care about the issue. So obviously you want to write about it in a way that makes people think it matters. This is an issue. We haven't read this one yet, but we're gonna in the next couple weeks. This is basically about working in a warehouse, an Amazon type place. I'm going to just read it to you. If the primary message of one half of our practical training is be careful, the takeaway half is move as fast as humanly possible, or superhumanly possible. I've been hired as a picker, which means my job is to find, scan, place in a plastic tote, and send away via conveyor whatever item within the multiple stories of the several 100,000 square foot warehouse my scanner tells me to. We are broken into groups and taught how to read the scanner to find the object among some practice shelves. Then we immediately move on to practicing doing it faster, racing each other to fill orders our scanners dictate, then racing each other to put all the items back. So you get that. Trend feature. These are things that are timely. These are things that are happening now. So for example, the picture I have here is the gray hair trend. Of course, that's not quite as timely as it was when I first did this PowerPoint, but you guys get what I'm saying. Like things that are kind of in at the moment. You use a lot of individual examples or individuals as examples, and the cost is often important. So in this story, you could talk about how much it costs to do this to your hair and what kind of impact that's having on salons. It's widely sourced, meaning you would normally have a lot of people who would tell you about the trend to give your idea that it's a trend validity. So for example, apparently there is a thing out there where people are getting each other's credit scores before they're going out to date. So that's a trend. Another trend is muscular body image. Going to the gym and being obsessed with the gym might be a trend right now. Okay, for the review feature, basically this is something that really relies on you being an expert in an area. In this class, I want you, if you're going to do a review, to interview someone involved in whatever it is you're reviewing. So that means that you can't just do, a movie on Netflix, unless of course you know somebody involved in making it that would be willing to be interviewed. You can't just do an album, you need to actually have someone who's involved in the thing to let you interview them. So you have to have, as a reviewer, a reputation for quality. You need to think about being consumer driven, so you're trying to give people information they can actually use. Typically it's written in third person, although sometimes they do write them in first person. And you must draw a conclusion. This is the real kicker for a review. You have to actually come to some kind of determination about the thing you're reviewing. May include movies, music, theater, video games, TV shows, events, or restaurants. Probably other things I haven't thought of there. Okay, so here's the last one, is the experiential feature. This focuses on the writer's experience. It's written in first person. Its clear description is the key. So basically, it's something that you're writing about that you are experiencing and seeing in a very clear way. So like a travel story, experiential features often have a quest. So your experiential feature may be your quest to, at this point, let's say, not overcome the massive amounts of boredom. Maybe not kill your roommate. Your quest might be to try to cook everything in from a certain website that you've seen or something like that. Like basically you need to have some kind of thing that you're experiencing in your life that makes a story. So an experiential feature just is basically letting the reader experience your reality. So the reason I thought you guys might be interested in this, I'll go ahead. The reason I thought you guys might be interested in this is because we're living in a very extraordinary time. I mean, what's happening right now is going to be something that you'll remember for your whole lives and will probably change this country completely. So obviously there's value in getting the record of what it is that we're all going through. So that's kind of why I thought this might be of interest to you guys. Feature writing documents real life impacts. So, I mean, it's the thing that tells the story. And also, I thought each of your experiences is unique. You've all got your own thing that you're going through in your, your own individual situation. And for this story, you could use sources that are around you or people that you talk to on the phone or online. This would be a way to avoid having to have, try and worry about sources too much. You could really just use whatever you're using to keep yourself sane in terms of sources. It's fine if they're related to you, if they're friends with you or whatever, that's perfectly fine. So I think this is probably the story type that if you're wanting to write about your, coronavirus experience, this is the one you would probably pick. But some of the other issues, some of the other stories like the issue story, the trend story, the historical story, all of those are all good options too. And the idea of writing a personality profile, you can certainly do that again for your third story, or you can do another business for your third story. So just keep that in mind. You've got all those options. All right, well, that's all I have for you guys today. Keep in touch. Let me know how you're doing and if you have any questions. Thanks.